What's happening, people? Guys, it's happened. It's happened. Morning show, Red Room, no flex, no Owen. They gave us the keys and we're on time. So they can't even ever accuse us of being the ones that are late to stream because me and Marcel are together, live, Red Room settings, and we are on time. Welcome back, guys, to the United View. We've got so much to talk about, I think, over what has happened in the last week. Obviously, part of the Red Room is now you can listen on all streaming platforms, Apple, Spotify, all of them stuff in the comment section below. But before we actually get into the show, we're going to start with some news, I'll call it, from last night. Jacobs Ben mentioned that Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani's 9-2 Foundation have officially started face-to-face meetings with Manchester United. Representatives will be present from the Bank of America, but Sheikh Jassim himself will not be attending in person. Obviously, the ball is starting to roll on this process. I think it's going to take a bit of time. Marcel, what do you hope to gain from like the next week or two in terms of when it comes to the ownership talk?
Well, some traction, Mina. Some traction. Things are starting to happen at last. We've kind of been in the wilderness a little bit. Nothing's really come out in big news, and this is the first little stage. I'm excited to see what happens. I'm excited to see what happens, and if they actually get the bid. Obviously, the Elliott Management Fund has also got to the second stage, and a few others. So it's obviously it's not Sheikh Jassim himself, but it's his representatives, and that's a good sign that talks have been started. And come on, man, I just need that Qatar the money to come in so that we can start getting some big players in. I'm excited for that summer window. I think that they're going to be at the front of everything good happening to Man United if they come in. And they want to develop more than just the men's team. They want to develop the women's team. The training ground, the stadium. So I'm just excited to hear new news coming in regarding the Qatari investment fund.
Do you think they've been put off of the Glazers asking for more than what they're willing to pay? I think the news came out, I think it was around last week, that they were bidding about 4.5. No, they were bidding 5 billion, and Sir Jim Ratcliffe was bidding around 4.5 million. But you have to take into consideration the fact that Sheikh Jassim is offering to pay off the debt, so that should be added on top of the price that he's willing to pay. So in reality, he's really looking to pay 5.5 billion, and the Glazers are being greedy, trying to get 6 to 7 million. Do you think
Yeah.
that might hinder the process?
Yep. Of course, the Glazers are obviously there to get their biggest price, and they've done it through the Rain Group as well. It's not even them directly handling this, but I think they're going to try and ascertain the highest price possible. You can kind of drag your heels over it. It's a massive sum of money, and they'll be making a huge, an astronomical amount of profit from when they originally bought it in and around. I think they only invested maybe out of their own money, maybe 200 or so million. And the original package to buy the club, including a consortium, was around 700 million or so. But I think, it will take a bit of time. They're going to want the best price possible, squeeze every penny like they've always done for how many years now out of the club. But I'm just really looking forward to now. We knew this was going to be a long process. We knew this was going to be a headache, but I'm just glad that it's finally happened now. And in the next season, we should have, I'm praying, I'm hoping, a new board.
You know what? Yeah, I was hoping when the news came out about, I think it was like November, that they were looking to sell. I was hoping by the end of March that there would be a confirmed buyer. The process of handover would happen. But we're about in the middle of March now, and it doesn't seem like we're anywhere even closer to finding out who's going to be the new buyer of the club. I guess obviously it's a process, but I feel like it's been longed out. It's been stretched out. I feel like it's been a month now since the first official bids have come in. When they set that soft deadline, I think it was
Yeah.
18th or 17th of February, and it's
Yeah.
been a month since, and they've just started talks now with the Rain Group and Sheikh Jassim's representatives of Bank of America. I just feel like I don't want to compare it, obviously, because Chelsea's circumstances were way different.
Yeah, political. Yeah.
If there could just be a little kick up the arse from to the Glazers, just to kind of get the process going, because if that means, March, come April, maybe beginning of May, we might have new owners. Then they would come in. They'd need to assess the situation and everything, and that could hinder our transfer summer targets. I feel like that could have an impact on it.
Yeah, nah, you're definitely right. Do you think, my question to you would be then, do you think it will take until maybe summer, past May, well, let's say, that something would actually officially be done?
You know what? I don't know. I honestly don't know. One thing I do think though is because in football the financial year goes July to June. So I think it would be an impact for both the owners and the sellers if someone comes in after the financial year. So in the new financial year, which is
Yeah,
July. Definitely I think they're gonna try sell before then. But it's just taking so long and it's just like I don't know how, Sheikh Jassim and, other bidders are not getting impatient with the
impatient.
situation because I'm getting impatient and I'm just like, it's been 5 months since you announced that you were looking to sell the club. And 5 months later, you've just started the first official rounds of talks with bidders, which will probably go to, I guess, another 2 or 3 rounds after that.
Yeah, it's an astronomical sum of money though. That's why. But I think when you're dealing with them kind of sums of money, it's gonna take time, and that's why I think it's been so long. Who do you think? Who would you want? Because there's obviously other entities involved with the bidding processes with the club. So who would you actually want personally?
Firstly, I do not want anyone that's saying that they will give investment to the Glazers. I want 100% buyer, like full full ownership. So whoever out of the bunch of because I know that um multiple different bidders. We just know of the two main ones really. That's like the two ones that are the face. And if you remember Chelsea when they were being sold, Todd Bowley and his consortium were not the main talk of the whole thing. People were talking about other buyers that were interested at the time. No one was really talking about Todd Bowley like that. So
Yeah,
I would want to know all the actual 100% buyers that are looking to buy the club. I don't want no people that are interested in investing and providing investment to the Glazers because we don't want that. In terms of what Sir Jim Ratcliffe, I was put off by his statement just because for me he just had mention of um, a bring the Manchester back in Manchester United.
yeah.
That gives me Brexit vibes. I'm sorry, but that kind of reminds me of the sentiment that was shared during Brexit. If anyone lives in the UK, obviously this is the views of me and not United View, but anyone that lives in the UK during Brexit, they were using those kind of terminologies like,
Yeah,
oh, make it's basically like make America great again. What do you
yeah, yeah,
associate that with? So, when someone's saying put the Manchester back in Manchester United, I don't know what he meant by that. But also just his mention of winning the Champions League or taking United back to winning the Champions League. He didn't really mention anything else that he wanted to do. He didn't talk about the women's team. He didn't talk about the academy. He didn't talk about development of the stadium and training facilities. He didn't. There's so much he didn't talk about. Whereas Qatar, on the other hand, spoke about that stuff. They mentioned it all in their opening statement, and I feel like that set them aside from Sir Jim Ratcliffe because all we could really judge at that point when they were coming out and announcing that they were interested was that statements that they put out. So based on that, I was leaning more towards Qatar and what they offer. But right now, honestly, I don't have a preference. I just want whoever's best for the club across the whole board. So the men's team, women's team, um, the academy, facilities, everything.
how do you feel about a fan led consortium? I've been reading some stuff on Twitter, man. I don't want to get drawn into it too much, man, but I've been seeing some stuff about obviously fan led consortiums. What do you think about that kind of avenue? You know,
I
the
mean,
fans owning the club.
it would be great. I think it would be great, but I think English football is not at that stage.
Mm.
I feel like English football. I think in Germany it's 50+1 for majority of the clubs. I think
Yeah, Borussia Dortmund, I think, follow that principle
Borussia
also.
Dortmund, yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like just English football in general is not there yet. Do you think that even like associations in England and now with um this new what's it called organization that the government are bringing in to kind of control football and the finances, do you really think that they would want um fans to run their clubs? To run
Yeah,
the
man. Yeah, I agree. It was just something that was looking quite interesting to me on Twitter that I'd seen. But I agree. I think we'll go into state-backed ownership. In terms of football clubs. Yes, obviously with Sheikh Jassim, it's 92 Foundation, I believe, that is obviously leading the investment, or will be the official owners of Manchester United. But other there's the Qatari Investment Fund, or with PSG. There's the Saudis with Newcastle, Abu Dhabi with Man City. I think nations now will be the entities owning clubs. But it was just really interesting to me. I mean, I just thought, the fans. Imagine the fans owning the club. What kind of decisions and how things could be taken, transpire from that. But it's interesting.
Yeah, I think English football is a bit too far away um, from fan-led consortiums. Although I think it would be a great thing. I think a lot of clubs, like for example QPR, I follow QPR, and they are in turmoil right now, both on the pitch, and the fans hate the owners. And I feel like a club like that in Championship, they were in the top six basically, fighting for promotion around November time, and now they're literally trying to save themselves from relegation. And I think a club like that have such a big fan base, and quite an involved fan base, they hate their owners so much that a club like that, a smaller club, fan led, would be a great initiative for them. But when you're thinking about Manchester United, it's like, how do you even decide who's part of the fan led? Because when the club is so big and the fan base is so huge, I feel like English football, yeah, I don't think we're there yet. I just, yeah, Splashnet says it now. The civil war would be crazy if fans owned the club. Honestly, it'd just be weird. I just don't know how that would work. I don't know how that would work.
Nah, I agree. It's just something interesting that I'd obviously seen on Twitter, but would have been it would be an interesting thing. I think it would be an interesting thing, but like you're saying, football, especially in England now, is a bit different.
Yeah.
When it's led by countries.
Well, on to the next topic, because we're here. We just spoke about the Sheikh Jassim's organization preparing talks, because that was the most recent news. But in terms of today's show, and yeah, I think people in the comments have been talking about, is this live? Yes, guys, this is live. It's not a pre-recording. We're gonna try go live maybe once every couple weeks or so.
Every so often.
Every so often, so we can interact with the audience in comparison to pre-recordings. Let's talk about the games. Let's talk about Casemiro's red card, because I feel like that's the topic of pretty much everything. I've seen people saying that he lacks discipline. Um, I've seen people saying that he's still adapting to the Premier League, and even the game versus Southampton. I am so shocked that ended 0-0.
Yeah.
And that's coming from both sides. I feel like Kyle Walker-Peters was auditioning for a role at Manchester United that day.
Yeah, that's a good point. Smashed the post with a shot. Was playing overall well. It's hard to keep Rashford quiet, and he done his best. But at times was playing well on the right back side. But Casemiro, he let us down massively, man. He let us down massively. I wouldn't say he lacked discipline. I think he's unlucky though. He let us down because the fact of the matter is you get the red card in the game, but he's extremely unlucky to get sent off in the manner that he does. He wins the ball first, and then obviously the follow through. And I've been seeing multiple examples of follow throughs, throughout this season. Fabinho and the Brighton player. And there's so many other examples where it's like no one's getting red carded for these. Andy Carroll on Eriksen. Eriksen, a big part of the plans and how we're trying to play football this season. We've missed him in important games. So Casemiro, he just come off a suspension. He literally just come back off a suspension, and now he's back on. So massive issue there with I don't know, officiating a little bit, but he has to know better as well at the same time, and that's why it's really annoying that we lost him in such a crucial time. We've got big games coming up, Fulham, Fulham in the cup, couple league games as well that we need, and we haven't been brilliant in the league of late. So we're back to bare bones now because of little things like that. In the midfield area, Sabitza's not is coming off an injury, and we're back to McFred now. So Casemiro needs to be a bit more streetwise, and a bit more sensible. But it killed the game.
One thing I've realized, is the level of officiating. Like, I don't know. I don't ever recall it being this bad. Not just in the Premier League, but even like Champions League. Like, I was watching last night the Man City game, And Edison done the wildest thing that I've ever seen in Champions League football this season. And I thought that was a straight red. I don't know if anyone in the comments watched the game, but he basically ran off his line. They were 2-0 up at this point. Ran off his line, absolutely took out. I think it was Werner or was it Holzberg? I can't remember who it was, but he took him out. Did not touch the ball. Literally, Werner got booked for shouting at the ref. And I was just like, either the level of officiating is so bad that it's now impacting the Champions League. But then I think back to things that happened to us in the Europa League, and that was bad officiating too. Then I'm thinking about things that have happened in the Premier League, that was bad officiating too. But the standard of officiating this season has been so inconsistent that with Casemiro to get sent off for that, you look at other situations, like you said, in this season in the Premier League, where players have managed to escape that. Escape a booking, not even a red card, but just escape a booking in general. And for me, it was just like Casemiro should have known better than to fly into a tackle like that so early in the game. But for me, it's just inconsistency in officiating. If in the past players had been sent off for the same like tackle, I wouldn't be as mad as Casemiro getting sent off for that. But it's because people have managed to escape those bookings, and it's like Man United get penalised. It's ridiculous. It's actually ridiculous.
Do you know what? It's really interesting as well on that point as well. You know, Ten Hag mentioned it. Ten Hag mentioned it in the presser and was very, very direct, you know, about the inconsistency. I just love the way he handles his pressers or any sort of interview that he has, you know, regarding and representing our club. He's so direct, he's so honest, he's so open. It's the most I've ever seen from a manager, maybe since Fergie, you know. And it's really, really every time he's under a mic, he's really good. And he said it, man. It's inconsistent, and he spoke about other moments. You know, he mentioned, I think, the Andy Carroll situation on Ericsson. He mentioned, you know, the difference between Fred's situation. Fred got strangled the same time Casemiro got strangled against Palace. You know, and Ten Hag was mentioning all those key points very direct in front of camera, and it was like, yep, he's being serious. And they have to stand up and listen to those kind of things. I think you do most probably get a fine if you're out and out, you know, being rude about the refs or brapped about them. But hey, I really like how Ten Hag handles the pressers, man. And we've had a difficult season in terms of, you know, decisions going against us. Even in the Europa League, we got a penalty against us. I think one of the first games, Martinez, you know, he blocks a shot, hits his body, and then his hand, and then the penalty is rewarded. And we just saw blatant handballs just the other day, you know, against Bruno, whatever. I think it was against Bruno. Someone crossed it in, Bruno crossed it in, and a blatant handball. So we've had treacherous decisions.
I think it was Real Betis scored last week. I think that goal was it started with the player chesting it like this with his arm, and he managed to get away with that. That's why I said that I feel like the level of officiating, not just in the Premier League, but just in Europe at the moment, is horrendous. It's so bad. But also, like, Casemiro as an experienced player should not be flying into a tackle like that. Stud showing, 2 foot. He should not be flying into a tackle like that. And I remember seeing I see it as a stat that said his last 10 games, basically, more than 70% of it, he's lost to suspension.
See.
I don't know why I find that so funny. I don't know why that's relevant, but I just saw that stat and I thought I should share it with you guys, because I don't think I need to see what the record is for a player getting sent off multiple times in a season. Because if he's about to set a record, or possibly touching on a record where like 2 is the record, and if he gets a 3rd red card this season, then he's set a record in his first season, that would be hilarious.
He's wild as well, you know.
Yeah,
he goes into tackles wild.
I mean, we saw it when, you know, the Palace game, when he necessarily didn't need to do it, because Varane, I think, was behind. No, Lindelof was behind him, and he flew into a tackle in the last 5 minutes and got booked and ended up missing the Arsenal game. Yeah, Splashnet, he's a hothead. I do feel like he's a hothead, and I just feel like it was a bit easier for him to get away with that in La Liga. A lot of Real Madrid fans that I've spoken to, one of my good friends is a Real Madrid fan, has told me like he used to do this, but it's just that he used to get away with it. I remember when he first joined United, everyone kept saying that he's he's the master of avoiding a yellow card when he should get booked. It seems like now refs have picked up on that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like refs have picked up on that, and now he's getting booked at least every other game, or he's just getting a red card. Makish 10 said he's not a hothead, just think he's intense. I agree. I don't think he's a hothead. I just think that he's so into a game, and he really does want, like, when he got sent off. Yeah, I've never seen someone cry, nearly in tears because they've been sent off. I don't think I've ever, not from a United player, and I know on the full view the other day, you lot were taking the mick out of Flex and his involvement with the red card.
Mm.
His involvement with the red card. But I've never seen a player like so upset, and you can see the passion that he has, not just for the team, but for the sport, like to play football consistently. So for him to be that distraught about, some people would be happy to get sent off, have 4 games off, they're chilling. But he looked so distraught, and I think the one good thing, even though there's a lot of games that we've got, I feel like the games that we're gonna miss him for, we could still win them without him. And I know that might be a bit of a wild shout. We could, because I think we've got Brentford, we've got Newcastle, we've got, I think it counts for the Fulham game because it's a cup game.
Yeah, unfortunately.
The 4th team. But if we were playing, if this was like closer to April, for example, and we've got Chelsea, we've got Spurs. We've got some big teams in April, and even like maybe end of May when we've got Fulham, we've got Villa, etc. The only thing Brentford for me is not an easy game.
It's not
an easy game, but it should be a winnable game. Obviously, we know what happened last time. Oh, I'm blue. It says it. Brentford put us in a spliff last time.
Yeah, exactly.
But you need other players to pull their weight. But in terms of the Southampton game, that 0-0, which I think we're going to look back at it at the end of the season and realize that's the game that we should have picked up all the points for that game, because I feel like it might impact us at the end.
Even the Southampton game away this season was a difficult game. I think it was a lucky 1-0, last few moments, good cross by Delo and then a finish by Bruno. But, this game, we was huffing and puffing, but to just no avail. I think once you go to 10 men for our team, it's very difficult to get anything out of that game. And like you said, it's that game against Southampton. I think a draw at home to Newcastle was another game where we should have picked up points. Rashford header chance at the last seconds. Those are kind of games, and it just goes to show that that's the reason why we're not at the top bracket yet. It's those are the kind of games at home where you should win, and even some away games we should have won as well. Fine margins, but is what it is, I guess.
We've got over 400 people watching. I hope we've got more than 100 likes. Otherwise, guys, I promise you, Flex ain't gonna give us back the keys. He's gonna take. Oh, apparently we have only 112 likes, guys. We need at least 200 likes before halfway of the show. Otherwise, Flex ain't gonna give us back the keys. We might get sacked. Me and Marcel are gonna be heading to the job center to find a new job. We might start our own YouTube channel, maybe, if we can steal Josh from here. But honestly, guys, make sure you guys get the likes up. You guys can become members. You can get your badges, your emojis, your exclusive UV content. Talking about the games though, this week, obviously we've got Real Betis and we've got Fulham. Which one do you think is the more important game out of the two?
So the more important game I think would be Fulham, but they're both, like you was talking about just a minute ago, winnable games. There's certain games without your big players that you can deem winnable. Should be really exciting seeing Real Betis with a rotated side. We've got that nice, comfortable lead 4-1 last game at home. It would be really nice to see a rotated side, and I've got an interesting point in terms of, unfortunately now Garnacho is injured, and speedy recovery for him as soon as possible. We need him back, but it kind of means that somebody has to step up. Palestri, Sancho, maybe, and another wide player has to step up. Rashford's not been up to his normal high standards. He's finishing games at a 6-7 rating, not the 9s and 10s that he was a few months ago, a month ago. We need someone to step up, and Palestri seems like he's doing well. I would really like to see him part of. Yep, Mr. A says it very right. I would like to see him involved in the game on Thursday. and he's someone that can really push on.
You know that I saw yesterday Fabrizio Romano was saying that they are in preparing talks for a new contract for Palestri around April before they send him on loan. I think he's going to be going on loan next season. Yeah, here you go. Somebody says it. I think he's going to be going on loan next season because it seems like Ten Hag wants him to develop, wants him. It's kind of reminds me of what he's done with Amad Diallo, sending him out on loan. I don't think Palestri might be going in. I don't think he'll be going on loan in England. I think he might be going maybe elsewhere. But one thing that I want to see, like you said, is rotation, especially because we're up 4-1. But also, I don't want people to get complacent. I don't want a complacent game. I want to see, second string players having the ability to create chances, score maybe. Obviously, Rashford he's not been looking like the Rashford of recent, but I don't think it's something to really panic about. I don't think it's something to be panicked about. I would like Bruno Fernandes to get a rest simply because he's played nearly every minute of the game of the games this season, and big respect to him to keep his body fit and his mind right to be able to play game in, game out. Because I can imagine that's not an easy task, especially when you're running around the pitch a lot. Like he's in a position where he covers a lot of grass on the pitch. If it was a goalkeeper, I would understand, but he's a midfielder. He's up and down that pitch. So respect to him for not just having the ability to stay fit and be available, but also to be mentally prepared every game. I can't imagine how tired he must feel. But I would like to see some of the players that we haven't had the opportunity to see. I would like to see Kobbie Mainoo get a bit of time. I know I'm going to say Zidane Iqbal, but I've accepted the fact that he's probably not in Ten Hag's plans at the moment. I've kind of accepted that. I feel like the Betis game is midfield-wise is quite a physical game. Physicality needs to be developed on his end, but I think the technical ability and talent is absolutely there, and that's not a question.
Why do you think that is, though, Mina, that he's not part of it this season? Obviously, we'll be speculating at this point, but like you said, the technical ability is there, the physical side, is there. Nikal's saying, Mainoo needs to get more minutes. They're agreeing with you, and so is Dabidi, and I agree. Kobbie needs minutes as well. But what about Zidane? Why do you think he's not part of of getting playing time this season?
You know what I think? It's just obviously us speculating, but I just thought that Ten Hag came in, and I think it was one of his first press conferences when he was talking about academy players, and he was like, I'm surprised Zidane Iqbal hasn't gotten more time because just from the few training sessions I've had with him, he's a talented kid. But for me, it's like we would have seen involvement in the early stages of the Carabao Cup. We would have seen involvement. We would have seen involvement in the early stages of the FA Cup, but we did not see that. And I do think it's because of his physicality. He's a small guy. He's not like huge. He's not anything. He might easily get barged off the ball. And I've seen quite a few times this season where we'll be playing on a Saturday and he'll be playing with the under-23s on Friday, meaning he's not part of the match day squad on Saturday. And this reminds me of what's even like Garnacho, for example. I don't know if you remember last season, he was a lot smaller physically than what he is right now. And I feel like he's developed a lot physically. And as part of that, then you develop your strength. And I just feel like Zidane is not there yet. And I feel like that's a reason why Ten Hag has not really had him involved, because we saw Kobbie Mainoo playing in the early stages of the Carabao Cup. We saw him playing. He came on against Reading in the FA Cup.
Yeah, done well.
He has not had any opportunity this season except for pre-season and the friendlies that we had during the World Cup. And that's in no way am I criticizing Ten Hag. In no way am I criticizing Zidane Iqbal. But I just think that maybe Ten Hag has another plan for him. Maybe he has another plan for him, similar to how he had a plan for Amad Diallo, which was to send him out on loan so he could get first team experience. But also part of his plan for development was developing physicality, which is what he's done a lot with Sunderland this season and in the Championship. So I think that could be the plan for him. But there's no doubt that he's good enough.
What about Sancho? I was talking about players. We're talking about two games: Real Betis and Fulham. Games where a player like Sancho, for the price tag, for he's been at the club obviously a season now. He's kind of got to step up. I was hoping to see him as a new signing coming back. He was gone for a little period last year, back end of last year, comes back into the team this year and hasn't really hit the ground running. And what do you think in terms of his involvement towards the back end of this season? Now he needs to be, someone that's contributing heavily. Ten Hag was talking about how Garnacho needs to be, involving himself in terms of goals and assists. But what about Sancho?
I think Sancho needs to. He needs to. He needs to step it up. And I'm not going to be like overly critical of him because he's missed like what was it, 3 months?
Yeah.
Pretty much. But even though some of that was during the World Cup, but I do think that in a game like today, for example, if we went for a rotated squad and Sancho was part of that rotated squad, he'd probably be one of the most talented players in that rotated squad. So by default, you should be the one that's keeping the ball ticking. You should be the one, pushing the attack. You should be the one that's leading. If I don't see that, and I'm just speaking hypothetically, guys, because I don't know if he's going to start or not tomorrow, but he needs to be. I don't like this shy player that we see on the pitch with Sancho sometimes. I don't mind you being a shy person naturally. That's okay. For example, and I know, please, guys, don't let me finish what I'm going to say, but I'm going to give you an example. Ji-sung Park, yeah. Whenever I used to watch his interviews, he seemed like the most reserved, the most shyest person ever. But on the pitch, he was a beast. No player could touch him in terms of what he could do on the pitch. And I was watching Rio Ferdinand and Evra on a podcast the other day, and they were like, "Oh, pick between Ji-sung Park and Nani," and they were like, "Listen, we love Nani, but on the pitch, no one's touching Ji-sung Park, like absolutely no one." And that's what I want from Sancho. I don't care how you are off the pitch in interviews. Obviously, we see that he's not a shy guy off the pitch. We've seen, him Carabao Cup final speaker on his shoulder. Dirk or Little Baby. He was listening to Little Baby coming out of the changing room. We know what he's like and his persona off the pitch. I want to see that translating onto the pitch. If you give me this fearless vibe when you're off the pitch. We see character, we see all of that. I want to see that on the pitch when you're playing, and that's not me saying do skills or anything. I just want to see that translate onto the pitch. So if you are this fearless person off the pitch, you've got a lot of personality. I want to see that personality evolve on the pitch where you've got the ball at your feet and everybody's excited to see what you're going to do. If you're going to link up, you're going to get into the right spaces. He had a good opportunity against Southampton with him and Bruno, where I think he was basically playing 2 8s on the pitch.
Yeah.
And I think that Ten Hag has looked to put Sancho more in that middle space. So show that. I want to see why you deserve that. And I feel a bit harsh, not just for him, but pretty much a lot of players when they come into a team with a big price tag. Because they didn't decide their price tag. That was by the club that they were playing at. And I feel like this about Grealish as well, for example. So you've already got a lot of weight on your shoulders. Then you're wearing the Man United shirt, which is another weight on your shoulder. And then people are expecting you to perform game in, game out, because every game counts, every point counts, every minute counts, in comparison to, when he was playing in Germany and the Bundesliga was pretty much, that is Bayern's playing ground.
Yeah.
So you're just competing for second, whereas here you're competing for, it's a top 4 that is very intense.
Week in, week out.
Every game matters. I need to see that performance from you. But that's how I feel about Sancho. I really want him to do well.
So what I would say is, and I agree with everything that you're saying. I would say he might be on his way out, in the next couple of years or so, unfortunately, if he can't kick on. You spoke on his abilities in the 10, and he had a massive opportunity to kind of play that 10 role when Ten Hag deployed the 2 8s. Obviously, the Casemiro situation shortens that. But he can't seem to recreate that Dortmund form out wide, and we've got young, dynamic players like Pellistri that are breezing past fullbacks and being productive in the final third. I think, I don't know what it is about Sancho's game, but he can't seem to.
I think Chris kind of touches on it. He says
Yeah.
Sancho's problem is that he's not energetic enough. Even when trying to mark a player, he doesn't even commit himself.
Yep.
He needs to be energetic enough. And I agree with that sentiment. I feel like sometimes when he plays, he's not putting in 100% at all times.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think Rashford should be rested at any time this week? What do you think about these 2 weeks games? Obviously, the Thursday game we got a lead, but the cup game against Fulham. Do you think Rashford gets an opportunity to be rested in any of the next 2 games?
You know what's funny? Yeah, is for me, Fulham is not going to be it's not going to be an easy fixture at all.
Yeah.
Fulham is a good team. They are a good team. We grabbed a win from them. I think it was the last game before the World Cup with a Garnacho winner.
Yeah.
And I feel like Sancho should be rested tomorrow in the Real Betis game, but I don't think he should be rested for the Fulham game. That's just my opinion. I'm hoping it's international break, so I hope he don't get England call up, and I don't mean that in a malicious way. But I just want him to stay at Carrington and rest.
You need to.
I don't want him to go to England for these pointless games. I don't even know what the international break is for. Is it for Euro qualifiers or something like that? I don't know. But I don't want him to go because I just want him to be rested. I want him to relax. I don't want him to be. And even though Southgate probably won't play him anyway, I'd rather just him just be at Carrington.
Yeah.
That's me being selfish. Sorry, guys.
No. It's completely fine. But I need you to talk to me about something. There was a big game, the real title race. United women against Chelsea. I saw the James finish, the Anchor volley. They scored some good goals. I can't lie.
Yeah, they scored Firstly, shout out to Flex for sending me there. It was honestly, I go a lot to I go to the women's games, but normally I just get a ticket. But it was nice to actually get a pitch side experience with it and talk to the players, talk to the manager. I just feel like it's Mark Skinner. He got his tactics wrong that game. We were playing a high line against a fast Sam Kerr. If anybody knows about Sam Kerr, you know how lethal she is. And 2 times in the first 10, 15 minutes, they tried that ball over the top. We're playing a high line. She got through. Goalkeeper Mary Earps made 2 great saves. She could have had a hat trick in the first 20 minutes just from the 3 chances alone. And then from there on out, the game was just static. It was just a static game from both sides. We had 2 penalty shouts, and the reason why I'm going to mention it is because the level of officiating has now trickled into
the women's.
It's trickled into women's football. We should have had 2 penalty shouts, but one in particular, I think on Nikita Paris. I even watched the clip back, and for me, I was like, "That's an outright penalty!" And the what's it called? The lineswoman was standing right in front of, literally right in front of it, and they still didn't call it. VAR is not a thing in the WSL, so if the ref don't call it, the game continues. And when we went into the press conference after the game, I asked Mark Skinner about it, the manager, and he went in on the refs for about a good 5 minutes in the press. Half of the press conference was him going in on the refs. And saying the level of officiating is a disgrace. He was like, it's a disgrace, it's an embarrassment, and it impacts the game, because really and truly, Chelsea have been one of the best teams pretty much in the WSL for a long time. When I was growing up, Arsenal were the best women's team.
Yeah, they was, yeah.
And they had they had Alex Scott, they had Rachel Yankee, they had all the best women footballers. Now Chelsea are the like Marcel says, the creme de la creme.
The creme de la creme.
In the WSL, and Manchester United have just always been unlucky up against them. I think before this game, we conceded 18 goals in the last five games against Chelsea. So to go to Kingsmeadow, where we were in the best form that we've been in a long time, and Chelsea had a lot of injuries. It was really an opportunity for us to capitalize, 1 point at the top, and it was just. For me, it was honestly a difficult game to watch, but I'm not losing optimism in terms of not just the title race, but just Champions League qualification, most importantly. But the level of officiating is a disgrace in pretty much every league right now. I wouldn't be surprised if what's it called? Sunday League. Right now, you're going to play Sunday League football. Bro, you're going to get hammered in the box, and the ref is not calling a penalty on you.
Yeah. I know I'm going to be injured. You're going to be seeing me on the show all coming on injured.
Sunday.
But On the women's team, is it more important right now for us to be pursuing this league or to get into Champions League qualification? I really want to see, us playing against Lyon, PSG, some of the best women teams in world football right now. But is it more important for us to be dominant domestically or to still be competing in Europe?
The thing is, we've never qualified for Europe. If I don't know if everyone's really aware, but prior to, like, I think 5 or 6 years ago, United recreated their women's team, because when the Glazers brought Manchester United, they disintegrated it and they
Yeah.
got rid of it. And so while Chelsea and Arsenal and a lot of these teams were building their women's teams in the 2000s, United, all the best players that we could have had was
Yeah.
going to play for teams elsewhere, because we didn't have a women's team. We didn't have an academy. People were going to play for Liverpool, Everton, going down to the Midlands to play for Villa, etc., because there was no team for Manchester United. And then obviously City came in, started to develop their women's team. So people started going to City's academy. And it's only about 5-6 years ago when they developed the women's team. We had to start from the bottom and work our way up by like I think it was 2 or 3 leagues before we got to the WSL.
Yeah.
If you had said to me at the beginning of the season that we would be, in a title race, I would have been like, wow, okay, cool. Because I'm not really, that fond of the manager. I feel like he's quite complacent with his decision making, in terms of, he reminds me of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and it's not in a rude way. I don't mean it in a rude way at all. But the Ole type of football that he used to play, the lack of rotation, players are not performing and he's still reluctant to drop them. The reluctancy to make changes at halftime, or in the second half when we need a change. I'll give you an example. The Chelsea game, he took off Nikita Paris and brought on a centre back. Nikita Paris is a winger. All our threats in the Chelsea game was coming from our right hand side. That was Nikita Paris and Ona Batier. And he brought on a centre back, switched to a back three, played our wingers, played our fullbacks as wing backs. And I was played them higher. But for me, it's like, why do we don't need 3 in the back? We do not. The last 10 minutes and you're chasing a goal, you do not need 3 in the back. And I feel like he kind of got sucked into Emma Hayes, Chelsea's manager.
She's the best in the world, I think.
She brought in a centre back, bro. She stuck it on me in the press conference.
What happened? What happened?
Oh man, I'm crying just for it.
What happened?
She was in a bad mood because she was sick apparently across the weekend, and basically she kept saying, yeah, Chelsea were the better team, and it was very like quick and precise questions that she was asking for, no long questions. So I said to her, I put out my hand. Obviously, I'm the only person covering United there. Everyone else is either covering Chelsea or they're just a neutral reporter. So I put out my hand. I was like, one question. Was your only tactic for the game to play balls over the top, because that's all you guys were doing the whole game and that's how you scored? And then she was like to me, it's not my job to talk about tactics. It's your job. So ask me another question. And I was like, yeah, but I want to know about your tactics. Then she goes, you should know. Don't talk to me about my tactics. Next question. And I was just like, oh shit, my bad. Okay, sorry.
She got drawn out. She was under pressure, man. She was under pressure. She didn't have her players.
And then she went because she was missing quite a few players to injury. So that's why she was so like. That's why she kept saying we were the better team. We were the better team. And then, I left the press conference, packed up my stuff. I was like, let me go to the bathroom before I leave the stadium. Who do I walk into in the women's toilet by herself, washing her hands? And it's Emma Hayes. And I was just like. I was like, oh shit. And then I was like, hi. And she goes, good question, but don't ask me that stuff. I was like, yeah, cool. I just ran into the toilet. I was like, let me just get out of here. I was like, I can't do it. She might jump me next time I see her.
Nah, she's a serious coach. I love how she how she coaches the Chelsea side. I've been following her for a little while, so I know she's brilliant.
She's good. I remember when all the Chelsea fans were pretty much put her out and they were saying get Emma Hayes to be his replacement.
Yeah.
The top.
She's good.
She's a top manager. Honestly, I didn't mean that question in a bad way. I was just genuinely intrigued because they played 2 balls over the top. The third one worked out. So I just wanted to know, was that your plan? Like the whole game? Because when I asked, when I asked Mark Skinner about his tactics, he told me, yeah, you know, I did this because of this and I did this because of this, but she was just not on it. She was not on. It was a funny experience though. I've learned my lesson because apparently Emma Hayes is just, she's a great like manager and everything, and she's a nice person, but she just comes across a bit like scary sometimes. I was a bit scared.
Nah, you can see it. You can see it. She looks like she's fiery, you know, and she knows about ball. And you maybe got onto her a little bit because, you know, that style of football has obviously been implemented because a lot of her key players weren't around in that game and in that fixture. So maybe it's that.
And I think it's because everyone was asking her about, you know, missing injuries, and she just kept saying we were the better team. Then she was like, you know, we don't get enough credit for, you know, missing our key players.
Yeah,
But I don't understand that. I get that. But I just wanted to know, was that your plan the whole game?
Well, the goal that they score, it's you can see, you know, that
It's a
must have
ball
been
from over. It was 3 different players tried that ball to Sam Kerr in the game. The first 2, it went over. She was quick. She's quick. She blitzed them 1-on-1 with the keeper. 2 great saves from our goalkeeper. The third time, she just chipped the ball, and even in the stadium, like it was on the side where I was sitting. Everybody was quiet because we didn't know whether the ball was going in or not, because it was a high floater over the keeper,
Yeah.
and only once it hit the back of the net did I realize it went in. And it was a good goal, but United were just not on it that day. We were unable to create chances for ourselves. It was just no creativity, wasteful in possession, especially in transition. We could have caught them on the counter attack, but they're 2 centre backs. Chelsea's 2 centre backs, Millie Bright and Khadijah Bashanan. Yeah, they are I want to say like John Terry and Ricardo Carvalho of that Chelsea team. They are so solid in that back line. I've been to a Chelsea game before to watch Chelsea versus PSG in the Champions League. Rock solid, and they were a big part of that game. So now we've got quite a few fixtures left of the season. Actually, we've got FA Cup quarterfinal on Sunday. Easy team. We're playing a team called Louis or something. I can't even pronounce it. Lewes. Louis. Yeah, I think that's how you pronounce it. They're not even in the WSL. So I'm hoping that'll be an easy fixture. Then we've got West Ham at Old Trafford, because they play a few games at Old Trafford every season. And then we've still got, you know, the last few games of the season are going to be interesting, because we've got Villa, then we've got the Manchester Derby, we've got Arsenal at home, and then we've got Liverpool on the last game of the week of the league.
Arsenal and Liverpool back to back in the same. And
for me, the threat is City and Arsenal back to back. And for me, it's Villa, City, Arsenal. That's the threat for me. Liverpool, no offense, but I'm not threatened by their women's team. I'm not really threatened by their women's team. So it'll be an interesting end to the season, but I'll try, you know, cover it as much as I can. Whilst it's the quest for Champions League football. One question that I have for you, and I know you probably got a question for me, because guys, it's not the Red Room if Marcel does not have a question for me.
I do. I've got 2 actually. Well, I'll do one, but I've got 2. You go first though.
Do you think we need to go into the summer transfer window to get a replacement for a backup option for Casemiro?
Yeah. Yes, 100% correct. I think we do need to go for a backup, and funny enough, we'll be playing against him this weekend. I think Paulinho for Fulham. You know, he definitely is a fantastic option as a backup. He's around 28, 29. So I know a lot of people would want somebody younger player, and understudy to Casemiro. And I think Kobe Mainu is someone that's looking to be that kind of mold. I think we haven't seen Charlie Savage, which is quite interesting. Beginning of the season,
because he scored his first professional goal on the weekend for Forest Rovers. So congrats to him.
Congrats to him for sure. I saw his old man celebrating, going wild on one of those those live action kind of live update football matches shows. But I just think, you know, we need someone coming in, and Paulinho just is fantastic for Fulham. He's been really good, and I think he will be someone that could be a good replacement for him. We was looking at Ibrahim Sangare at the beginning of the season. You know, another CDM type. Yep, somebody Christians put it up. You know, he's someone that I have my eyes on. But you're right, we need a replacement for him. You can see the potential red card, the disciplinary kind of situation that can manifest from Casemiro, and just when he leaves, when he's not in the side, Mina, the quality drops so massively. But what do you think as well? Do you think and who would you pick? Is there any? Do you have any players in mind to replace Casemiro?
You know what, Ibrahim Sangare, I'm fond of him. I liked him last season. I think he's good. I don't think he's a Casemiro backup. I think he'd be a Casemiro partner, but I don't, because he plays a lot more forward now this season. Maybe it's under PSV, but he plays a lot more forward. And also, he signed a new contract in the summer, which I think he's got a release clause. I liked Paulinho before he joined Fulham. I was a fan, 18 million pounds, I think it was 20 million euros.
Yeah, really good price.
But I said this before, and I stay on it. For me, it's Mohamed Kamara from Monaco. That is Casemiro's, not just his backup, but his, what's the word? Prodigy. Yeah, and I'm gonna say, because there's two of them. There's Yusuf Fofana, Mohamed Kamara. Both play for Monaco. They play in a pivot together. Mohamed Kamara gets forward a lot more, but defensively he's immense. I watched him against PSG earlier in the season. I went to PSG Stadium. Bro, he was bossing that midfield, in a midfield where I forgot what that PSG midfield is called. Verratti was playing.
Ronaldo, maybe.
Sanchez was playing.
Ronaldo.
He had them on lock. He got man of the match that game. For me, it's him. He's young. He's still young. He's only like 23. And he was brought in as, I think it was from RB. He came in from RB Salzburg this season in the summer when they sold Tchouaméni. And this is what Monaco are known for. They bring in, new players. It's like in France, obviously, there's some random cell in the ground where they just get French players out from every single time.
Digging them out.
He's from Mali, but he's, I think, raised in France. And they just bring out talent like non-stop. Like, I don't know what it is with France, but they've got, even with like their centre-back options, they've got centre-back options for the next 15 years right now. Like, they've got centre-back options in their French national team. But for me, Mohamed Kamara, if we give him the rest of this season at Monaco, I would go for him in the summer, because I just think that I really feel like he can be that guy, not just for Casemiro to be a partner, but also to be his prodigy. I genuinely think that, and I don't think he'll cost us too much.
How old is he, Mina? Because you're going for someone younger.
Yeah, he's 24.
Paulina's a bit older.
23, 24.
Yeah, it's a good age. My question, I got two for you. My questions are.
Let me just read the super chat out quickly.
Yeah, no problem.
From PS says, great show as always, guys. Given that we will not get Frankie de Jong, Maximum Lopez from Selesso. Marcel, can you go back to 4 on Jailhouse Cam? Marcel.
What's Jailhouse Cam? I usually get locked up for some silly reason, but that's been gone. The jail's been gone, and Jailhouse Cam was actually Cam. I remember there was a stream we done ages ago, man, where Cam looked like he was in a jailhouse because the way that the sofa was propped up and
when he had the mattress at the back.
Yeah. So it wasn't me. I'm not Jailhouse Cam, but I always get locked up. So if you're talking about that, then yeah.
I remember that video. But go on, hit me with your questions before we wrap it up.
I have a question about the forward. I was talking about summer transfer window. Who would you pick out of Harry Kane, Victor Osimhen, or Vlahovic? Which out of those three forwards would you pick if you had to pick one this summer, and why?
What's the price tags?
I think Harry Kane would be anywhere around, let's be fair, maybe from anywhere from about 80 to 100, maybe. Victor Osimhen.
1 year left on a contract.
Yeah, it's Levy, isn't it? It's not gonna be cheap. I personally would say 75 mil, but I think he's gonna try and get a premium out of it. Osimhen is obviously 110 plus, upwards to 130, I think, roughly. And Vlahovic is a really good player, man. I would say another 8. There's financial situations for Juventus, but 80 to another 100 again. Vlahovic maybe 110 at most.
Out of those three, I'm going for Osimhen.
Why would you go for Osimhen?
For me, there's multiple things. Harry Kane for me is obviously a great striker. Like people downplay him because he ain't got any trophies, but you don't just score 200 and something goals just by chance, especially not in the Premier League. But I don't want to have to. I wouldn't want the team to go out, for the club to go out. You know, what are we in now? What year are we in?
2023.
I wouldn't want us to go out in 2025 and have to buy a new striker because the decline with age and everything is there. And he's not prone to injuries, but he can pick up a knock here and there. And that's no insult. That's no insult to him, by the way. I feel like Osimhen, for someone who has come off like an injury-ridden seasons and has been performing for the last 2 seasons at pretty great, but particularly this season, because I think he's one of the most informed strikers. Like anytime I watch Napoli, this guy's guaranteed to get a goal. And I also feel like he gets into the right spaces. He reminds me of what Rashford does sometimes when Rashford is playing in that number 9. He's in the right space. I'm not saying that he's like Rashford because Rashford has just developed this season. But Osimhen is always in that space. He can score with his head. He can score with his foot. He's quick. He's strong, very physically strong. He, causes a lot of trouble for strikers, for defenders, as a striker. But also, I feel like a lot of his performance this season also goes to the fact that he's part of a duo pairing at Napoli.
Yeah, really good system.
I'm not going to pronounce his name because I might butcher it, but their left winger, the Georgian guy, he, for me, amazing. Like they brought him for like 10 million, I think it was, from the Georgian league. They scouted him, and him and Osimhen together have created such a great duo pairing that both of them get to flourish in that system. He's getting his assist because anytime he's playing Osimhen through, Osimhen's finishing and he's scoring himself as well. Don't shoot me, guys. This is just my theory, but I feel like if Osimhen comes, him and Rashford could be a great duo pairing. Rashford needs to work on his assisting a bit more.
Yeah.
This season, he's trying to do it all, but I feel like if he had a number 9 that he knows that he could play the ball into, it would be a whole different story. So for me, it's Osimhen, but for me, it would, if I was to rank it, it would be Osimhen, Ramos, Kane, and then Vlahovic.
Also, you put Gonzalo Ramos.
Yeah, I'd put Gonzalo Ramos in there.
Fair enough. And then my final question, because I've been thinking about this for a little while. Do we go back in for Frankie de Jong? And if we do, is there a chance that it's a toss-up between Frankie de Jong and Jude Bellingham? They're the front runners for that box-to-box ball-carrying style of midfielder alongside obviously Casemiro. But the 3 people that I'm looking at as a partner to Casemiro, Mina, would be Frankie de Jong, obviously Jude Bellingham, and the fella from Real Madrid. Can't remember his name now. Camavinga. That they'll be my 3 choices for Casemiro.
Do you think Real Madrid would even sell Camavinga? Because they only brought him in last season, like the season before, and I know that they're going for Bellingham. And I thought, my theory was that it was Bellingham, Tchouaméni, Camavinga was their replacements for Casemiro, Cruz, and Modric. So I'm not.
They've done the right things. They've done the right things, but Camavinga's not getting any minutes, man. Camavinga's not getting any minutes right now. So I would say, it's an opportunity maybe to go in for him. Does Frankie de Jong? I think Ten Hag is adamant on his Frankie de Jong choice. So I think he will try and go back in the market for him. But again, for me, Jude Bellingham seems like the main guy for it. If we need another world-class midfielder, I think it's going to be Jude.
I don't want to see another Frankie de Jong starting, if I'm being honest. Last season, it took all the energy and the life out of me. I don't want to see it happen again. And he seems like, I don't want to be rude, but he genuinely seems like he don't want to come to United. That's the impression that I get. When you're talking to the press or whatever, you have to say good things about the club that you're at. Otherwise, you're going to get benched or you're going to cause problems with management and whatnot. But I don't see him wanting to come to Manchester United, and I feel like we should not waste another transfer window chasing him if he don't want to come.
Okay, thank you very much.
But that's just my opinion. Obviously, we'll see how the summer transfer window goes. Guys, thank you guys all for watching. Make sure you guys get the likes up. Hopefully if there's 50% of the likes in comparison to the views, Flex will give us back the keys again for another time. Obviously, you can stay tuned on United View for all the content that's coming. You know, we've got a match day preview coming out today at 12 o'clock, and then Flex's behind the scenes of the Real Betis Stadium is coming out at 4 p.m. today. Guys, I spoke to Flex, I think it was last night. He told me some stuff that he did at the stadium. He told me some stuff. I don't know if it's good stuff. I don't think it's good stuff. But you know, I hope it's covered in the content that is coming today. Because if we do lose and we still go through, then we know for sure Flex is a bad omen. He's bad luck. He told me some wild stuff.
It's the opposite. It's the opposite to the Midas touch, but I don't know what that is.
It's the flex touch. It's the flex touch. He told me some wild stuff. So make sure you guys like, make sure you comment, make sure you guys subscribe. Stay tuned for all the content that's coming. We've got jam-packed week. We've got match day tomorrow at 5:45 in the UK, and then we've got a big game on Sunday in the FA Cup. But thank you guys all for rocking with us. As always, it's me and Marcel here on the Red Room. And until next time, guys, peace.